Greetings, friends and followers. This is Nurses Talking. I am Dale Barzi. As always, if you like what you see and hear, leave us a like, comment, subscribe. So today, my guest is Janna Holterman. Janna is a nurse and a coach, and she says that she helps aspiring fempreneurs bounce back from burnout to build their business. Welcome, Janna.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you. I appreciate your time, really. Thank you. So I always want to know from people why they're nurses. So why are you a nurse?
Yeah, I think I was one of the people who really had no idea what they wanted to do as a kid. I knew I wanted to help people. And so I had family members that were in the healthcare profession. So I was like, it seemed like a good option. So I kind of landed myself in nursing, and I feel like my passion grew from that and really realizing how much I enjoyed helping people, but that continued to develop in like my desire to empower people to help themselves and create lives that they were really passionate about. And that was kind of where coaching came in after I had already been in nursing for a few years.
Awesome. So you went straight into nursing out of school.
Yeah.
That's your path. If you weren't a nurse, what would you have been?
Ooh, and now I would say a life coach, but I had no idea what a life coach was even like 4 years ago. So when I was younger, I really wanted to be a vet because I do also love animals. So I probably would have gone to the animal side of helping, not the people side.
Yeah. Okay. So what kind of challenges have you faced as becoming a nurse in your nursing career?
Oh my goodness. I feel like everyone has faced challenges in nursing, especially now. I feel like there was just a lot of pressure in how it should be. When I went into nursing to start with, I started in a float pool because I was like, that was what was full-time at the time. And I said I wanted to work in the ICU, and they were like, oh, well, like you need to be here for a long time before you can get an ICU job. And I was like, no, I want to work in the ICU. I'm going to figure it out. So I went and like talked to the people I needed to talk to, and I kept applying for ICU jobs, and I didn't get them. But then I went to my float pool manager and I said, what are the chances of me just like switching over into the critical care float? And she was like, oh, we'll keep an eye on it. So I ended up switching over within the first year of my nursing career into the critical care float and got placed in the CVICU, which is where I ultimately wanted to be, and then was able to transition to the CVICU fairly quickly full time. So just because people say there's a certain way that we do it here, or this is the certain thing that, you know, you need to do, you have to do med surg. If that's not what you want, like just find a way. You'll just keep asking the different people, and you'll be able to find what you want.
Okay. So what areas did you work then as a float person?
So for the float person, I started med surg float. So I floated to like every medicine surgical ward within 3 different hospitals in like the city I was in. So everywhere. I worked everywhere. Oncology, GI surgery. I did everything. And then I switched into the critical care float side of that team, which was the cardiac ICU, the regular medicine ICU, surgical ICU, and ER. So I did that, and then I switched right like into the CVICU. So I stayed in there for the remainder of my nursing career.
So let me ask you this question right now then. So are there any aspects of nursing life you would like to see change?
Culture. Really, nurses understanding that they have a lot more power to change things than they give themselves credit for. Especially being the coaching side, I've done so many workshops at hospitals, really giving nurses and other healthcare professionals the tools to handle burnout, to be able to give themselves the resiliency and the tools to thrive amidst whatever chaos is happening. And there's so much right now. And over again, I would just hear people saying, well, it's the staffing ratios, it's the management's problem. yes, there are things that need to change with the staffing ratios. Yes, there's terrible managers, there's amazing managers, there's all kinds of managers, but we have so much more power than we ever give ourselves credit for. And if you're standing up and saying, okay, this is what I'm willing to accept and this isn't what I'm willing to accept, I'm being an advocate for myself, I'm being an advocate for my patient, that's what's going to change the culture, not waiting for somebody else to change the way the whole system runs.
I am so glad you said that. I really am, because it's been one of the things that I have been saying for years, is that we give away our power. And I don't understand why. In any other industry, I think we would be standing up for ourselves. And I'm not sure why we still think of ourselves as the ones who have to take all of the nonsense and not be able to stand up for ourselves. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So then you left bedside nursing.
Yes. Yeah.
All of that, insisting that you want to be in the ICU and you want to do this. Why'd you leave bedside nursing?
I really got to that position that I wanted. I got all of the skills. I had every certification that I could get. I got them all. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there was things that I really loved about it, but I kind of got to the point where I had all of my boxes checked and I sat there and was like, okay, well, now what? I felt like I should have had that, like, I've arrived moment. I was like, it never happened. And I was like, I still don't feel that I'm serving in this high capacity that I wanted to. I still don't feel that I'm helping, I'm making enough impact. And I think there's so many people who bedside nursing is their passion and their impact. And I really didn't feel like that. I felt like there was something else that I needed to be doing and I still wasn't doing it. And that was, I think, where coaching came in for myself personally. And I started doing a lot of coaching work, getting coached a lot and really figuring out who I am as a person and like, what am I passionate about? Like, what is my, authenticity in life going to be? And I think that's where I really realized that my helping people was on a deeper level. And that's kind of how I got into coaching. And I really started with the burnout, and it's almost shifted more to, most of my clients are all nurses actually, who are building their own businesses, who are creating their highest impact, whatever that may be in their lives. So really serving to others to help serve more.
As I talk to people, I'm hearing more and more about people talking about burnout. Burnout, I don't think is a new thing, but is it are we seeing more of it?
I think that there is more conditions that are pushing people towards burnout. But I think what's actually happened is COVID and the pandemic has just amplified what was already there. So there's this like level of discomfort that we have where we don't really want to change because we're comfortable in our discomfort. So we're exhausted, we're busy, we have all these things going on. But then the pandemic hit and there was just so much like amplitude of that raising. There was just so much more pressure, and people started to realize that they were, like the change was starting to be needed because the discomfort of where they were was so great that then they're like, oh, maybe this is a problem. Maybe this is something that does need to change. I think there was a huge amount of nurses who are like, well, I already know how to help. I don't need extra help. I know how to eat right. I take care of myself. I'm fine. I know how to do it. Like, I know all the things. But then we get to the point where you can't compensate. You can't function. You can't handle the level of stress that has come to us. And then they're like, oh, maybe this is a problem. Maybe I do need help.
Yeah. Indeed. I see that your business, you say fempreneurs. No men?
I've worked with a few, and it's just kind of like, I feel like women tend to have a different way of doing things.
We do.
So I personally, I mean, if there was a man who came and really fit maybe it will work, but I haven't personally had a guy that really fit with the way that I coach, the way that we work. And I mean, I'm a woman, I run a business, I understand how we think. I, have been a nurse, and I understand like the different things that go into that, even the different traumas that have come from that, and have that understanding and the skills to be able to take that resiliency that nurses have and create that into something beautiful.
Okay, that works. So what would you say at this point is your greatest achievement so far?
Ooh, okay. It's definitely going into business. I think there was just so much fear. There was a lot of, just like, how do I know what's going to happen? I have no idea. Going into that unknown, no, like I knew that was the path for me. Like I had that inner knowing, but there was just this a mass amount of fear, because I was like, I have a full-time job, I have the security, I have the benefits, I have all the things that, you want, but yet I didn't feel the way that I wanted to feel. So I started working on the mindset to create that, but I realized that I needed to step out. And so stepping out was a terrifying roller coaster of emotions that turned out to be the most fulfilling journey and amazing wonderfulness.
It's I have to tell you that I as I speak to people, and I'm not excluding myself from this.
Yeah.
Because I feel that too. But it always amazes me that when nurses say they felt fear about stepping out, because we work in the most fearsome
Yep.
every single day.
Oh, yeah.
You would think that we are, we're fearless, or we're used to this.
Mm-hmm.
Yet we're not. Yet we're not. It still takes us.
Well, it's actually what happens in our brain is our brain doubts and fears the unknown because it doesn't know how to protect us. So people dying on us and us having to, perform CPR and do all these things, even though that's a high stress situation, our brain knows how it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
It knows it can expect what's going to happen. And it's like, okay, yes, we got this. We've trained for this moment. But going out into entrepreneurship is a completely different identity. It's a completely different experience. We don't know. We can't just show up and expect people to like come in and pay us X amount of dollars for X hours. We really have no idea how that's going to go. So of course our brain is going to freak out because it doesn't know what to expect. And so that is normal for us.
Yeah. So with this coaching of nurses and helping all these women lift themselves, what is your big vision?
I really have that, like, I feel like I'm quite like a liberator. I really want people to be able to have their own capacity to create their own freedoms, their freedom of time, their freedom of money, to be able to choose, to have that understanding and awareness of who they are. We have all of these shoulds we've put on ourselves since we were a child, who we should be, how we should act. A good nurse should, a good wife should, a good mom should, all of these shoulds. And I really want people to understand that they are unique and they don't need to listen to what somebody else has told them they need to be, to really figure out who they are and show up in a way that just fills them with so much passion and joy, and just go out there and do what they want to do and be able to create the time, the financial freedom to do that. And I think that's really, what fills me with passion. And I think the more nurses I speak to, the more women I coach, I realize that although we have so many similar backgrounds, we're all passionate about different things. We're different ideas they have to improve things. Yeah. And nurses are so inventive. You'll get a nurse on the call and they'll be like, I have all of these ideas that are going to make the world a better place. And you're like, okay, what are you really good at? What are you passionate about? And it's just amazing to see how everybody's passions are all just different. And I feel like we can all kind of create something so beautiful when we come together, because they, those puzzle pieces fit together.
That is awesome. What would you say if you had to describe the most essential quality of a nurse in just one word? What would it be?
I think it is tenacity.
Tenacity.
Yeah.
I'm collecting these words. you know? So why tenacity?
I think, especially in nursing, and it's kind of interesting because we've kind of talked about this, things don't go the way you expect. Things never go the way you expect. Patients go south. Some patients you think are going to do horribly turn out to do amazing.
Great.
You
Yes.
never know how it's going to go. People are going to treat you terribly. People are going to treat you wonderfully. And really having that understanding that if you can show up as your best self, if you can like figure out how to be you, no matter what the circumstances are, to have that tenacity to continue to show up, to figure out who you are as a person, to figure out who you are as a nurse and figure out where you fit in. I think that's so beautiful, and have that willingness to almost, not have things go the way that you want, because when they think things don't go the way you expected is when you learn the most.
It's when, yeah, it's when you learn the most, and it's when you actually surprise yourself sometimes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we have a lot more skills and talents than most of us give ourselves credit for.
And so this is one of the things that really when I look at you, I appreciate what it is you're trying to do, because as you just mentioned, we have so many more skills and talents than we give ourselves credit for, that we know, than we recognize. And we seem to think that it's just it's just normal, and it isn't. Yes. It's stuff that you have developed and learned and nurtured, and and all of these things, and found out by trial and error, and all of these things. So awesome. And the word is good, tenacity. I like it.
Thank you.
So if you had to give advice to someone who wants to be a nurse today, what would you say?
Yeah, don't be afraid of all of the obstacles. I think that we already talked about this, but they're going to make you into who you need to be. And if you really want to be a nurse, go for it. If you really want to be a peds nurse, go for it. If you really want to be an ICU nurse, go for it. Do whatever you want. There always is going to be obstacles. There's always going to be steps that need to be taken. There's always going to be people you're going to need to talk to, and that could be scary, but I think that we tend to make things way more complicated in our heads than they really are. And I think we also have that tendency to kind of make things so much more dramatic. We're like, oh, it's going to be so horrible. Or, like people are going to be mean, or like you never know it. So don't be afraid to go after whatever it is you want. And if you want to do that, just like take some time, get out a piece of paper and just write down all of your ideas and thoughts, and really, look at those ideas and thoughts and say, okay, how can I take action on this? Take one step forward. One thing that I can apply today that's going to move me towards that goal, whatever it is.
Awesome. One of the things that I tend to want to say to people is, don't be, because nothing can, be an emotional ringer. And don't be afraid of your emotions. I think we tend to be a little bit afraid of our emotions sometimes. Just because you cried today didn't make it a bad day.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And as far as emotions, what we resist persists. So if you're avoiding your emotions, they're just going to keep coming and blindsiding you. Yeah. So if you take that time to just let it flow, I think if you've talked to most nurses, they can all probably remember a time where they got in their car after a horrible shift and bawled their eyes out.
Bawled, not just cried, they bawled.
And then you have to compose yourself so you can drive home. We've all been through it, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's just part of being human.
Yeah. Janna, I don't know how to thank you for this wonderful conversation today. Thank you so very much. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate all of your insight. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It was fun.